gone through each of the channels. We went deep and I talked about how each of the channels, pros and cons of each of them, but I wanted to share just like a quick way to kind of like compare and contrast the different channels. And so it's easier for you to think about which ones do I choose in what scenarios. And I think this is the thing that people struggle with the most is like, okay, great. I get it. Hsu Ken, paid marketing, outreach. I get it. But like, I have an idea. Which one do I actually use? So we came up with five bad startup we can debate whether they're bad. Five startup ideas. We can talk through kind of like which channel we would use to generate traffic for them. I think what's interesting here is actually oftentimes you do more than one and some are better than others, but you can kind of do more than one and you kind of get different types of information. And so I've been talking about these channels in individual kind of spaces, but in reality, you could actually do more than one. And so I will differentiate between the ones that are like highest priority. Like I would definitely do this one. This is the main one. And then maybe kind of secondary priority where it's like, it's possible to do it. I would recommend it if you kind of like are able to do it, but I would have these two tiers. So the first idea we have is accounting software for SMEs, which by the way is a good idea. There's just a lot of people that do it. The primary way that I would generate traffic for this is outreach. So I would do cold email outreach. I would find emails for SMEs and I would start reaching out to them. Specifically for SMEs too, a lot of them actually also don't have emails. And so depending on kind of what kind of SME, but like if you're going after restaurants, for example, not a lot of email usage, although there's some. But if you can get their phone numbers and you do WhatsApp messages and that kind of stuff, even better. The hack for this is all restaurants have phone numbers kind of on their websites because they want you to like make reservations and stuff. And so you can just message all of them. So depending on the type of SME though, I would do outreach, either cold email, WhatsApp messages, whatever that is. So that's my primary one for accounting software for SMEs. It is possible to do paid marketing for this idea. And again, I could do paid marketing in two ways. One is I would probably potentially buy Google ads. I'm sure there's a fair amount of SMEs who are searching for accounting software. A great way to see if that's the case is you can use Google Keyword Optimizer and they will actually give you a sense of how many people are searching for certain keywords. And so you can use this kind of Google what your ideas about. And if you see a lot of people are searching for it, this tends to be a good place to do it. So I think Google search would work here. I could also see paid marketing around certain kind of like groups. And so I'm sure there are like some websites or communities that people who run restaurants and businesses kind of like follow, and you could potentially kind of buy ads in those or magazines and that kind of stuff to test it. Okay, maybe not magazines, but I'm sure there's ways to do it. So my first priority is to do outreach for these, and then maybe I would try kind of Google ads, and then maybe a little bit further out, I would do buying ads in kind of like industry relevant spaces. So that's what I would do for accounting software for SMEs. The second idea here is robot bathroom cleaning. And so let's say you're a hardware company, you want to validate an idea whether, people would buy robots to do bathroom cleaning for them and you'd automate bathroom cleaning. Priority one here is again, I would do outreach. Like who owns bathrooms that kind of need cleaning? And if you think about it at some level of scale, it's like, okay, airports need this, probably malls need this, kind of like who needs this the most. It's probably not kind of like mom and pop restaurants. So then I would try to find emails of people who are in charge of probably kind of operations or services for these places. Like there's no way you're going to reach the CEO of the airport, but there are people who kind of like need this run operations. I would maybe kind of also find cleaning services, maybe like they subcontract out this cleaning services and you can reach out to them and be like, hey, would you guys think about buying a robot for the bathroom cleaning? And so outreach, whether email or LinkedIn, I think is kind of a pretty clear move here. Secondary things you could do is, again, you could potentially kind of buy Google ads where I would probably buy it around kind of like, I don't know, commercial space, bathroom cleaning. I'm sure there are people that are searching for that or bathroom cleaning at scale or something. So you could buy some ads that way. You could do a bit of hustle on this one. You could actually just go to the airport and go talk to the people cleaning bathrooms. You could go talk to the office and be like, hey, who does this? And you can kind of find out. So there is hustle that you can do here. Same with malls and that stuff. So there's some hustle that you can kind of do. Third idea is a food recommendation network. And so I don't know, just for the sake of this example, let's say that you like to eat like I do and you want recommendations from your friends. And so it's like a social network, but for food. The thing that I would definitely do is I would do paid marketing for this. And I would definitely do Google, sorry, not Google. I would do Facebook ads or Instagram ads for this. Probably if you're working on an idea like this, you are targeting a certain demographic of people who are probably younger, kind of like in their 20s, maybe kind of younger than that. And Instagram and Facebook are great for that. You can target them. Maybe you target kind of like certain cities who people want more recommendations. And so I would very clearly do paid marketing here. As a secondary thing, I might look at some communities. People are really into food. And so I think there's probably some communities that you could like piggyback off of that might be interested in kind of this app. Maybe there's kind of influencers even who kind of do this around food and you can kind of like work with them on this. So paid marketing is my number one choice. And then I would look at some community stuff as a secondary choice. Fourth example here is an elderly dating app. I'm going to just try to use this example as much as possible through all of the modules. So let's say it's a dating app focused on elderly people. My first thing I would do is I would actually probably try to do some paid marketing here. Elderly people, I think actually use Facebook quite a lot. I know that young people don't use Facebook anymore, and elderly people kind of do. But Facebook gives you the demographic information, so you could target people of a certain age. They do use the app, and so I think that's a good place to start to see who's kind of interested in this. As a secondary thing, you could do community. There's a lot of communities for elderly people, whether it's kind of like around exercise or kind of activities together. And you could try to go to those communities and see if they're interested in this. You might have to be a little bit careful because I think sometimes when it comes to dating apps or some of these things, people might be a little bit more shy talking about and wanting a dating app and in kind of groups of people. And so I think some people will talk to you. Maybe you can kind of get to know some people and then ask them a little bit more privately, but something you need to kind of keep in mind. But could work. So I think again, my number one for this one is I would do paid marketing, target against the demographics, and then I would maybe think about kind of communities around this. The fifth and last example is let's say somebody's working on a personal trainer marketplace. Someone might go on because they want to get fit and they're looking for a personal trainer. And so they go on to this marketplace to look for one. And then on the other side, there are also personal trainers around there. The reason why I wanted to use this as an example is this is a two-sided marketplace. And so if you're validating this idea, you actually need to generate traffic twice for two different groups of people. And so one side is again people who want to kind of get fit, and then another side is the actual trainers themselves. You need to get both people onto your platform. For the people who are interested in getting fit, I think this is a paid marketing thing. People would typically want to get fit. Not always are certain demographics, but likely you're trying to target a certain kind of demographic and you can use that to do that. It is also possible to kind of like look at communities. There are Fitness is a really big thing these days. People talk about it a lot. And so you can find these online communities where people are interested and you can do ads on those. You can start talking to people. Again, I mentioned the fitness subreddit, but there's a million subreddits about fitness. You can find these things. So for the consumer side of this, I would do paid marketing, then I would look at community. You could also do a little bit of hustle, I guess. Like, I mean, gyms are all people who are interested in fitness, almost kind of like by definition, although you might get kicked out at some point, but you could possibly do it. Maybe you just like stand at the entrance before kind of like going in and ask people about it as you're going there. Can't kick you out of that. To get personal trainers, I would probably do outreach. So again, I think personal trainers are similar to kind of SMEs where they're like trying to be contacted. And so their emails are out there, the phone numbers are out there. You can reach out to them. And I would ask them about, whether they want to make some extra money and be on this marketplace. And I think there's also probably kind of a small community of personal trainers in your kind of like local market. And I'm sure if you get to know a couple of them, they'll kind of like share and talk to you about kind of the other people and introduce you and that kind of stuff. So for the personal trainer side, I would probably do outreach and I would probably do community. Maybe to illustrate the counterpart here, I wouldn't do paid marketing for personal trainers because personal trainers come in all kind of different demographics. So if you ask me, you're like, how do I target personal trainers with paid marketing? I'm like, I'm not sure actually, right? Like it's not like only 20-year-olds. So I guess maybe they're a little bit younger, but it's not as clear. And so I think when you're thinking about whether to use kind of paid marketing, it really is a question of like, do you have a really strong thesis on kind of demographics? And if you don't, then it's probably kind of not appropriate. So just as a counterexample to kind of like, why you wouldn't use that, for example. Coming back after these 5 examples, just some observations about it. I listed paid marketing in every single one, and kind of at varying degrees, but like it's possible to kind of like do this. And so paid marketing, again, as I said before, is kind of like very versatile. And so you see this throughout. For everything that has to do with kind of like B2B, or you're reaching out to some sort of business, it's almost always outreach. And then the community and hustle parts are kind of like, well, it kind of depends. And so I think those ones are very useful and positive, but kind of maybe a little bit less versatile. The community one specifically comes down to, are you focusing on a niche? If that niche exists, then you can kind of go after them. The hustle one kind of depends on how creative you are. So it could work for all of them, but depends on how creative you are.